So apparently there is a fight on. So I don't like watching people get beat up. So I figured I would just come and kind of talk to you guys. This is technically a chill session. I called it a not so chill session because I figured it would open up the conversation a little bit more. I know when I have my chill sessions, the conversations are pretty closed. I don't like to have them get like too serious. I like to keep them pretty chill, like that's the goal. But I'm feeling like a little bit more open tonight. I don't have, as with all chill sessions, I don't have an agenda. There's nothing in particular that I want to talk about. I just thought it would be nice to just hang. Like I said, I'm not going to watch a fight. So I might as well talk to all of you. So what's up? I saw you on like one of my other videos. I went to your channel. You have a lot of interesting interviews on there.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I'll try to interview you too. I don't want to left my information for you. Yeah, I interview different people on different subjects and things. Things that's different. I try to, do things that and talk about subjects that everybody's not talking about. A lot of people they're engaged and talk about, they fixed on talking about things that the media talking about, but when there's so much more in life that's going on that I feel is important that I think we miss out on it. When I saw you on Philip Scott show, I was very happy and very thankful for Philip. He always try to show things that empower Black people. And I think homeschool is very important because it's a subject that a lot of Black people ain't thinking about, because I think that today is not society run with our people. It's they're being indoctrinated with stuff that's not helping them to take them to the next level. I think we're stuck. I think ever since we've been integrated, thanks to like Martin King said, that I think it hurts us and hurts our future, because the brainwashing and programming, the mistreating, and not like for instance, I think our Black kids learn a little differently. I think Black people need to be more educated, different, because if you think about it, our kids are more active and they get bored in school. If you look at like sports, the reason we do is good in sports because I think Black people learn better when they engage with activities in learning, besides just sitting down staring at a chalkboard all day long. And so I think it's good to take our kids out so our parents can focus on the kids, and the parents need to learn how to teach themselves instead of allowing the system and the school program that's not designed to really help our kids and our future to live a realistic life.
Yeah. So first of all, you guys, you can see his name on the screen. That's actually his channel's name too, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yes, ma'am. I go by Andrew Love. My real name is, no, I'm not gonna say my first name is Andrew, but Andrew is like my Love is like my stage name, but I like that better for I'll tell you my real name later. But Your Journey is my channel. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Your Journey is his channel, and he actually has some really interesting interviews, like some really interesting topics, and a good archive of interview, because I was kind of digging back into like his earlier videos. So he has a diverse group of people that he interviews, and really some interesting topics. So if you just want to kind of move out of the kind of bubble, like he was saying, if everybody kind of talking about the same thing, then you will definitely like his channel. I was just over there today checking it out. So I encourage you guys to go check it out, subscribe if you like what you see, because it's a very interesting channel, and there's definitely some good content over there and some interesting people over there. I think I saw some older videos that looked at a variety of things, but I think one of the newer videos he has on there is about a woman who had a traumatic brain injury. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. She had a tumor.
Yeah, so she had a tumor, and she just talks about like overcoming that and how her life works like around that, and just how that changed her as a person and how she moved forward. So he has some really, and it's everything from like that to people who talk about spirituality from like different kinds of perspectives. Like he has a really eclectic blend of interviews that he does on his channel. So I encourage you guys to check that out. Now, with that said, I I agree with you, like about Black children and learning. So a lot of children, I think the way that children learn in the most natural way that people learn is that we're kinesthetic learners. And and that allows you to have like the visual aspect of learning, the physical aspect of learning, and also that receptive aspect where you're actually getting instruction. And I think when you incorporate all those learning styles, like children learn better. Public schools are really geared toward a lecture setting, and they're more designed as conditioning facilities. So the idea is to like get the information into the children for that mental conditioning, but also for the physical conditioning, so that you get used to keeping time. The schedule pretty runs in par with the average job schedule and things like that. So it's conditioning of the mind and also conditioning of your temperament for what your expectation is when you move out of that public school setting. Private schools are a little bit different depending on the type of school you send your child to. Their structure is a little different. I went to private school almost all of my life, including when I went to college. And so the structure was a lot different, like their approach to teaching students and the expectation that was had of us was very different. But the traditional, like run-of-the-mill public school, yeah, I get that vibe from it too. I was so happy. If you guys haven't seen that interview on African Diaspora News, Phil was very gracious in allowing me to come up to African Diaspora News and just talk about Ziax and the Institute and the work that Q Butter and Ms. Botanica and Ms. Marsha and all of the ladies and the Black men over there that are working are doing. And so that was a great opportunity. And I think sometime in the future, T West over at AfroSynergy News is also going to be doing the same. So I'm grateful to him. And you guys, I'm pushing up on Sonnetter. I'm trying to get Sonnetter to do the same thing. And also I'll be asking African Esquire. So I plan to move around and ask some people who have a good community reach. And so I think African Esquire will be the only one I haven't worked with before. But since Phil just interviewed her, and you should see her interview on Phil's channel the day before, I believe, my interview, maybe on the same day that my interview aired, African Esquire's aired. And her interview was very powerful, very interesting. So you have to go over to African Diaspora News and check out both of those interviews. I think you'll enjoy them. But yeah, he was very nice to let me come over and just kind of pitch homeschooling to Black people and talk about the Institute, and more importantly, the work that's done there, but also this idea that as Black people, we have to unlearn our conditioning, right? That's why we have the term woke. We have the term woke because you're conditioned in a certain way and you kind of have to unlearn that. And that process of unlearning it actually stunts us because it's like a baby. We're learning to walk, we're learning to talk, we're learning to navigate the world and comprehend how we perceive things. And we're doing all that from scratch as grown people. The advantage to our children to be raised in a woke state, even though I hate that term, but I'm going to use it because people know. I mean, the advantages there are just numerous. I mean, it's like pulling teeth. That's what I was telling Phil, just trying to get people to understand the concept of group economics and execute it. It's like pulling teeth, but we're able to do that simply because if we initiate that as children, that'll be instilled in them. When we go to public school, they teach us to have group economics with the entire country, right? With the establishment. When we teach them ourselves, we can teach those same values, but have them be community focused. So, I mean, that's just a minute example, but we could apply that to anything, right? We could apply that to the way that we talk, the hairstyles that we prefer, the history that we teach the child, the way we approach mathematics, any of those things. It applies to all areas.
Yes, ma'am, I agree. I think because when I got out of school, I really didn't like it, and I learned a lot when I left school. I learned more after school than I did in school. And it's sad. I think you can learn more from YouTube than you can in public schools. Um, yeah, it's real sad though, but I'm glad that Phil do interview people of y'all nature and who bring something different to the platform. And I watched your interview, and I'm gonna go back and watch hers. So I've seen some of it, I ain't seen all of it, but he's very good at promoting things to help Black people out. And I think a lot of things is that it's hard for, like, when he do, and I know he do interviews like with y'all and other people. Not too many people tune into as much as they like to hear about racial thing, but they love listening to the bad stuff. But when it comes to educating one another, they don't seem like they too in tuned into watching those videos they can learn and how to better improve themselves. I think it's strange of why they don't. Probably because of programming.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I homeschooling is a topic I'm really passionate about, just because I've had the opportunity to do it both ways. You know, I've had a child where I did that struggle through public school, and I have children that I've homeschooled, some where I started, public schooling. I kind of gave that story, so I don't want to rehash it here. When I was talking to Phil, like what pushed me into homeschooling, I wasn't trying to be woke or anything. I just recognized that there was a problem there, and I had enough situations where I was like, okay, you guys are advocating underachievement, So I have a child that speaks 5 languages. He wouldn't be speaking 5 languages if I listened to public school, because when he just wanted to study 2 languages, he just wanted to study French and Spanish. I got pushed back on simply asking if he could take 2 foreign languages and one of them be an elective. And I was literally told that my son should take shop. So here we are, fast forward a decade later, he's gone to school in Japan. He speaks 5 languages. He's competitive, right? Because on a global stage, we have to recognize that it's normal for people to speak 5 languages. That's unheard of in the United States because we're so used to people pandering to our English. And it's more powerful when it's from somebody that is a Black person, right? And so my eldest, you guys know, is a mixed child, but he looks like me. So we look at him and see mixed. The world looks at him and sees Black, right? Same skin color as I, hair like mine, the whole thing. So it's more powerful when our people can do that. People don't expect that level of achievement from us. He's the only, child of any African descent, of any measure of African descent in his school in Japan. He was the only one. And so, but I just will never forget when his black, y'all, a Black woman, his Black, what do they call them? Not advisors, but advisor, counselor, whatever they call them. When
Principal? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, they have I haven't been in the public school setting for so long, but like in high school, each child is assigned like a counselor or an advisor.
Oh, that's something new.
Yeah. Well, in California, that's how they do it. Maybe that's not universal throughout the country, but it's kind of like being in college, how you have like somebody that's assigned to make sure you take the classes that you need to meet. Like at his high school, it was like that. And when this Black woman was like, oh yeah, I'll post the link again, Cassandra, I'm sorry. His counselor was like, he can take shop. And at that point, I wrote a letter to the school district. I CC'd her. And I was like, I've never been so appalled when you have a student that is an overachiever than to be told, instead of using a foreign language as an elective, my child should take a shop class. We would never, and it was a strongly worded letter to the district. And, his school district offered him a scholarship after that, like when he was graduating. But that was our journey out of public school. He ended up attending a community college for most of his classes. And that's where he started being able to take other languages. And the school was not happy about the fact that they were losing that money and that seat time. But I'm not happy that you wanted my child to take shop, And, also, I think the emphasis we have on sports. I know Phil recognizes that that's really important to parents, and letting their kids know, like, if you get to homeschool, like, your child still can participate in sports and all that. But I think and I respect that. For me, I feel we need to put these physical activities on the back burner, right? And we need to really, yeah, a guidance counselor. Yeah, that's what they're called, Cass. So I think we sometimes need to put these things on the back burner, and we really need to focus on languages and academics and mathematics, computer programming, things like that, like all of those STEM things. I think that is and finances, like,
I
our
agree.
kids need a hardcore understanding in like all of those things, and you simply cannot get that in the
Public
public school
school.
system.
I agree. I think that's one of the issues because I was looking at what black people do. If you look at what black people do now, I think we've been so in hookwinked into thinking all we good is singing and tap dancing, so to speak. That's what I say, like sports and those type of areas. And then when it comes to respecting us for our mind and our ability to create, like our ancestors did, they came up with a lot of inventions. We're not looked upon of having that ability. Now I think that's been taken away by making us want to dream to be a basketball player, a football player. I mean, what about using your mind and spending your mind? Learning languages is not easy, and I think that it helps the mind expand. I know in Africa, I talked to a few people that they speak 5 languages in Africa, and it's normal. Like, well, you speak 3 or 4 different languages? Yeah, we speak like 3 or 4 or 5 different languages in Africa. Believe it or not, and they do, but nobody talk about that. A lot of people think black people are dumb and uneducated, but it's not true. And I think African people, they want to talk about African people. That's when African people is very smart. They very understand business. They understand art. And I think when people hear the word artist, they first thing they think is a person like a rapper or singer, but they don't think about art for as paintings and drawings and architects, like blueprints and stuff. That's part of art. So I think that in America we've been conditioned to think on the way we survive unless we into rapping or singing or running football and basketball, and those careers don't last longer. The NFL, you're lucky to make it past 3 years in sports, and then when they get finished wear and tear your body, you go broke because you don't know how to do nothing with finance. You don't know how to manage your money, and you've been used and abused, like, I don't know, kind of like a dogfight, so to speak. So I'm glad that you actually believe that it's important that we educate our mind more to understand business perspective and how to survive and understand economics of more than just the physical activities that we've been sold to, and that started from years ago. And the people, controls that market of entertainers and NFL. You see how they treat our people. They throw them away. But if you can build your own business, start your own thing, like for what you're doing, I think you basically trying to teach. Where you come from is that we need to learn to build and become more independent. And the only way we can do this is that we learn other languages and know how to be more creative besides just sports.
So Word Lord said you can do both sports and education. You shouldn't teach your kid computer science and all those sciences at such a young age because they can't understand it when they don't know math good enough. Well, my 5-year-old just built his first robot about a week and a half ago. So yeah, I mean, he built his first robot about a week and a half ago. I had to hold it steady for him, and obviously I had to give him the instructions verbally because his reading is not to the point where he could read it. It was just a simple robot, it had little googly eyes, so that it could be cool for him. And he had to do some minor wiring and things like that, and it just kind of hopped along. I mean, but it was a robot. Yeah, so it was simple. He did it. So I think that we don't give kids enough credit for what they understand. That same 5-year-old little boy got on the phone with his grandma, and he was telling her in great detail how the coronavirus was airborne, and that meant that it could come through the vents. And I was blown away. She works at a hospital. She was blown away. I was like, he's been listening to the CDC and who status reports that they've been giving with me, and I'll be listening to them while I'm baking bread or something. And I did not realize he was bursting at the seams to like share what he understood. And the clarity with which he understood it was insane to me. Like, I was like, wow, that, like, you were really paying attention. Like, he really understood how the virus worked. He really understood, what it meant for it to be airborne. Like, he was defining it for her, like maybe she did not understand. So I think we don't give children enough credit. When we have little kids that can sing a whole rap song, these are kids who can memorize the periodic table. I would advise, rather than you playing music for your kids that serves no purpose, we have the water cycle song, the scientific method song, the periodic table song, and they will just as easily learn those things, right? Because, I got stuck. Because of the way that you present it. So I think we have to give our little ones like more credit than that. And hi, Curtis. So yeah, and then there was something else that somebody said. Oh, I wanted to talk about what you were saying. Y'all, I'm on the 3rd floor of my house. If this goes south, I promise you guys I'm not going downstairs. I can't be bothered. So let's just hope this doesn't go. I'm not only in the like, because you guys know that my internet thing, one, I live in the middle of nowhere. 2, my internet thing is in the wall in my laundry room. It's like inside the wall in my laundry room. So all of these things together and these new lines that they laid, if things go south while I'm on the 3rd floor, I will not be going downstairs because I'm way too comfortable up here. But I wanted to address what you were saying too, and that's that there's always been a value put on Black bodies, and we have really come to feel that our bodies are the way that we achieve and are the things that are valuable about us. So whether that is sexually, whether that is like with physical strength, or whether that is in sports. So we view achievement, right, and the value of Black people. And it's weird how this transition was like made, but there was no real shift. It's like Black people are still valuable for their bodies. Black women are valuable for large breasts and big butts. Right. Black men are valuable for physical prowess. And so we've literally carried that into the modern day. So when we see Black women portrayed, they're portrayed as sexual objects because that's always been our value, right? When we see Black men portrayed, they are portrayed and they are valued for their physical prowess. So that's always, or their ability to mate and mate with many women. So this, and our acceptance of those stereotypes, I think, is it can be problematic. So with that said, I wanted to just touch on that because you are right. And again, I'm not saying that these things, that sports are bad or that beauty is bad or anything like that. I'm just saying that we also have to recognize in the presentation and where we overall in our community lay the value of those things, and what that can mean in the bigger picture and what we're passing on to our youth as what is valuable. And we find that when people excel in other areas, this is not so much the case anymore, but definitely in my generation and in generations after and before me, it was not always valued to be intellectually superior, right? That was not the value. The value was in your physical appearance or your physical abilities, or depending on your sex. And we actually frowned upon academic achievement. And, and we shamed people for that. So just getting out of that mindset and kind of switching that. And I feel like society is kind of encouraged and pandered to that dysfunctional thinking, because when society values Black people, it is the same way. It is as the sidekick. It is as the pretty Black girl. It is as the Black dude who, can run really fast or throw a ball really far, or, and the only time there is an exception to that, and the only time the intellect of a Black person is accepted as valid, is when they're being weaponized against the community. So then if you're weaponized, if you're going to sit on our newscast and be weaponized against your people, if you're going to mislead your people, if you're going to do, we see this with Candace, you know, if you're going to fly to Europe and talk about how bad your Black mother was before you talk about the blueprint for moving Black people away from a toxic party. I'm not a Democrat by far. But if you're going to be willing to do that, then all of a sudden we respect your intellect, right? You're that special kind of Black with the right kind of intellect. But, you know, but we have to recognize these tropes and not get caught up in them.
Yeah, you're saying a lot there. You know, I understand exactly where you're coming from. For some people, it might take a while to digest because there's so many details they will have to evaluate to see what all the traps are. It means there's multiple things in the big, nutshell of things that we've been dealing with. And I think public schools is one of the things that hurt, because I know in public schools, schools are mostly about sports now, because they make most of their money off of sports. That's why some of the programs that don't really push as much as certain sports, because they get money for having so many off of people, just having people there. They get numbers off each head. And I know that's how schools get their money, and then it's the sports academics, and so they'll be happy to have people of certain color there participating in sports and stuff like that. You know, certain electives that go bring more money to the school, because there's certain programs the school make a lot of money off of, and basic schools is basically another money institution. They really don't care about your kids, and unfortunately, a lot of people think they do. They don't. They use them just like the college people do. They use your kids for the academics. If you're looking at what's running the schools now, it's mainly football, maybe baseball and basketball. That's why a lot of other electives have kind of weaned away, but certain few shop classes. But yeah, and you know, it's sad, and like a lot of Black kids do go to school 9 times out of 10, then they're gonna get a scholarship unless it has something to do with academics, and not for them being real smart. And then if they are smart, they have a hard time getting to certain schools unless they fit a certain profile of like one of the Black people that's real smart, but maybe the one that may, I guess you want to say, stick to the white man script. Then they'll let you in certain schools. But if you don't if you don't have a certain type of certain type of whatever they're looking for, they ain't let you in them schools unless they know they can, you kind of like a sellout, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to stereotype, but I'm being real. You know, certain people that put up there when it comes in.
Yeah. James was saying they want kids to do too many things Red was saying that. James was saying many California public schools prioritize Spanish over reading and writing in English. Yes, that is very common in California. I don't have a problem with people learning Spanish. I think it's important to learn Spanish. I think that's essential. I also, like, my top language lists are, and these aren't the languages my son speaks. He picked his languages based on what he wanted. But I think that Spanish, I think English, I think Arabic, I think that speaking Cantonese over Mandarin, specifically Cantonese, is really important. I think it's very important to be able to speak Latin and all of those languages, because those are the languages that are going to help you navigate the world. Now, then people will say, well, what about African languages, right? But I think if you have those foundational languages, you will be able to speak languages that are commonly spoken in Africa, like French, right? And then you can speak African languages. I feel that is important just culturally. However, what I will say is that I think it's important to learn other people's languages too. So I'm for African languages. Unfortunately, there are many, many languages in Africa. So you're kind of cherry picking what you will and won't speak. So I think we can definitely go with those languages. But I think if you speak French and Arabic, you'll find you can get on quite well in a lot of African countries. And I think if you have specific African languages that you want to learn, that you can do those. But to compete globally, then I would go with that list. Now, I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time, right? Children grow up and they're just bilingual, So I think that is possible to I think that it's possible to have that present. DeFreak, you really need to change your picture because it looks like you're not properly clothed. But with that said, he does, right?
Yeah, I was kind of looking at that. It looked like he was a. I mean, then he calls up the freak, so he's saying good stuff, but what take away from it is the way he looked, and it looked like he a pervert or something. So, I like what he said, but I
never know. I never know. I've never know. DeFreak, he's never naughty in my chat room.
Not,
but I've not decided what I think of him yet, or her, or I don't even know if that's like a picture of the actual person.
Right.
But yeah, I think you should change your picture. I'm gonna
I agree. You should change your picture. You very smart to be. The picture can throw you off. Some people don't judge by the cover. Unfortunately, a lot of people do. I read what you're saying. I agree with what he said. Then I looked at the picture. What is that?
Yeah.
At first, I thought he was saying something crazy. He's like a troll, and I said, "What the heck he saying?" But yeah, I agree with the freak.
I would say Latin, and the reason is because I think the understanding of words is important. I don't think we fully appreciate a lot of the language that we use as English-speaking people, and also the language that other cultures are using that have domination over most of the world. So I think to fully understand that dynamic, you do have to understand like the roots of where those things come from, and that just helps you get perception, right? Like overall perception. So it's for the sake of like an understanding. But we were looking at DeFreak, who's I think is happy that we actually brought him, because I don't think I have ever said his name before, even though he's been visiting my channel for like at least a year now, I think.
Wow.
But yeah, we're talking about the Freakcast.
Shout out to you, the freak, for being faithful and consistent. No, but faithful, consistent.
He called himself a troll, though, so I kind of was he's like a friendly troll. That's kind of like, and I kind of figured like that's what he was, is like just a friendly troll.
Yeah.
So he's been trolling the channel and like living on the
in a good way.
For a while. Yeah, for like a while. Sean Bird said, "We already know too many other people's language." Well, do we? We don't. We only know one other person's language. Most of us only speak one language.
Yeah.
It's not the key. Stop defining the world via other groups' languages. Okay, well, let's be clear. We live in a global society, so I'm not defining the world through other groups' languages. If we want to engage in world trade independently, we need to speak Cantonese, because China is a huge part of world trade. So that's a necessity, right? If we want to engage a lot of the Middle Eastern nations, and the second biggest religion on the planet is Islam, right? Being Muslims are dwarfed only by Christians. We need to be able to speak Arabic. So it's not defining the world by other people. We live in a global society. So then when we start thinking globally, we need to be able to communicate with all types of people. And yes, it would be nice to have a language, that we spoke, that we could speak to each other, or multiple languages like other groups of people have. Like I said, China's one place, but they have Cantonese and Mandarin as the major languages, and then all of these sub-dialects. So I want to clarify that it's not defining the world by other people. It's recognizing to compete globally, we must be capable of communicating with people, doing translation for ourselves, and not being dependent on other people to do that for us. So you can't have global trade and you can't speak people's languages. Somebody's got to be able to translate. Somebody's got to be able to negotiate. So we're either going to play this game on this planet, or we're not going to play the game on the planet. So I think it's more, I hope that kind of clarified it. That's more where I was going with that.
I'll be wondering what sometimes when people explain stuff, and I noticed that I'm listening to you talk, I understand exactly where you're coming from. It's pretty clear, but sometimes I think people speak, when they make comments, they speak out of assumption and emotions and not thinking clearly. It's almost like they think you trying to say they're not. We need to use other people as a measuring stick. What basically what they was thinking, as like we're not good enough, and that's not what you're saying. You said we need to be better, and the way we can be better is to learn different languages, educate ourselves, so we can be able to communicate and make money in diverse places besides America and international, like America does. But you need somebody to do it. You need to learn how to do it yourself because you can't really trust everybody what everybody's saying. And so you just tell them we need to be more independent in order to do our own thing. So I don't. When people say stuff like that, I think sometimes they get the impression that this mentality I probably used to have that, or you trying to say we ain't good enough or we can't do it, or we need to be like somebody else in order to have value. That's not what you're saying. You're saying we need to add value by educating ourselves to learn different languages and different things, so we can really help support ourselves and start being dependent on other people. And I understood where you was going with that. It's just strange how people hear things and you have to break it all down to them because the assumption of something. And I think that's the impression that was getting, that you was saying that no, in order to us to fare up, we need to be like other people. And that's kind of strange.
I think I understand it, because sometimes conversations are like, okay, so somebody is in the back chat saying they're Mr. I swear if one of y'all are imitating Mr., I'm not going to be happy.
Who is that?
You, Mr.?
Hey, what's going on?
Oh, it is Mr. Oh, somebody's impersonating my man. I will be mad.
How you doing, Mr.? I don't know what you look like.
Because I never show him, because there are whole stalkers out here in the world. So whenever we're up here, there's always a picture of us together, but he's always wearing glasses, or like his face is obscured or something. We took another one really recently, but okay. All right, it is Mr. Because I was like, I know this is not a whole impersonator, because I asked him if he was going to come up, and he was like, no. So I'm glad you came up. But I want to just address what Sean was saying. I think that sometimes so let's say we talk about a topic, right? When we talk about a topic, there are like layers to our understanding. Like as we peel back the layers, we can understand the reasoning behind something more and more. So I think sometimes, we might be at the surface, or we might be at layer 2 or layer 3 or something like that. And so somebody else may have like analyzed it a little bit more and say, oh, well, I see that it's beneficial for these reasons. And we might still be at the place where, like, I don't know, I'm like kind of against that. I'm not really for that. Kind of Mr. and I were having this debate, and we were talking about if Black people should leave predominantly white spaces. And I was like, they absolutely should leave. And he's like, but everybody's not going to leave. So it's really important that we have people there to support individuals that are still in those communities. So that's us being on 2 different layers. Like for me, I'm just like, problem solved, get out of the area. For him, he's like, we have to be realistic. We need to support the people that are there, right? So everybody's not going to leave. So this is what we need to do. Same topic, but he's thought about it in more depth than I have. And so now we can have a meeting of the mind, so he can see my perspective and there's validity to that, right? And I can see his perspective and the validity in that. So I think sometimes that's where we end up too, right? Is that we haven't thought of a certain topic from every angle. And sometimes you can get people that can add to that overall perspective, and that can be really helpful. Why is this so flipping big right now?
Okay, I understand now.
There is somebody else here, but this thing is so big right now. I don't understand it. Okay.
Dark Prophet, how you doing?
Oh, I'm so glad I was able to add you, because that was so flipping difficult. Like, I do not know what is going on right now.
That's pretty nice. How we got four slices.
Mm-hmm. I had Mr. Merriman up here, and he was cracking me up because the Brady Bunch, how they're all like looking at each other. He figured out.
Oh yeah, yeah, so like the family looking down.
because we were disagreeing too, but then he was like looking at me and I was like, I can't do it. He was like looking at me and I was like, I cannot stand you because you're like too funny. Well, we're trying to be serious. We can't debate and you're going to be making jokes and looking up at me, things like that. But yeah. So, hey, mister, what do you have to add to this conversation?
Well, I'm coming at the end or middle of it. You're talking about how you all despise public education, especially for Black students, and I get that because it hasn't done our babies any favors. I'm a product of public education and longtime educator and still an educator, um, although I'm in higher ed now. So I don't disagree with anything that has been said regarding public education because it often is a cesspool for our babies. But I wouldn't say let's just not throw the baby out with the bathwater because we do have some educators, individuals, not a system. The system is flawed, right? Well, no, the system is not flawed. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Let me recant that. So, but within that system, you have some individuals who are trying to thwart it, right? Who are trying to be unapologetic about saving our babies in the system that is really not for our babies. But the reason why I say that because a lot of people are not going to stop going to public schools. They just are going to go there. So we can have our parochial schools, we can have our charter schools, which are public schools as well, and we can even have our home school. And I think we need to have some symbiosis with all of those different types of schooling and make sure we're supporting our babies wherever they are. And so, that's just my take on that. I came in when a little bit when you're talking about your babies as far as the counselor. I believe that's who it was, the counselor suggesting that he takes some type of shop or something like that. Now, while I totally disagree with her assessment of trying to, really dumb down his intellectual capacity and place him in that type of class, I do want to speak to the validity of vocational education because it is something that's very valid. So, although in the case where she was trying to place him in that particular course, I disagree with it. But the fact of having, our young brothers and sisters being able to use their hands and their minds in order to be entrepreneurial is a great skill to have. And I don't think we should overlook that because now those vocational school classes that they once offered are often out of, they're often not offered anymore, especially in our schools, the more urban schools. They're coming back a little bit, but you'll find them out in the rural areas. And with the trend has been that those classes are now being offered at trade schools and our community college, where now you have to pay for them. Where once upon a time you were able to get those classes for free and be able to make a really good living, just by taking those courses at the high schools and or middle schools. So I just wanted to chime in on that. But again, I agree. Oftentimes there's a dumbing down of our babies as far as their intellectual acumen and just diminishing them to sports and entertainment. Excuse me. And so that's something we've dealt with historically, and we just got to make sure we're steering that. But as far as if we are going to be entertainers or athletes, making sure we're doing something, similar to LeBron James, where he's, has his posse and they're his agents. He started schools. He used that talent to foster in other endeavors. And so I think that's something we need to start doing if we want to go into those areas. There's nothing wrong with entertainment or sports, but we're not just limited to that. And oftentimes I think, a lot of these young brothers and sisters just think either I'm going to be in the NBA or WNBA or I'm going to be a rapper. And there's nothing wrong with that, but
Wait, baby, but who was it that said we don't need to be engaged in entertainment? we've mastered. I'm with him. Who was it? He's like, anytime we deal with each other, it shouldn't be.
Oh,
Who was it?
talking about, yeah, I forget his name. Neely Fuller Jr.
Yeah.
So you talking about Neely Fuller
Fuller
Jr.
Jr. on this.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the Onion. So he brought up a good point about this is an Onion scenario. He brought up a good point about how trade skill is very important, and I will second that. And then and that can piggyback on the expectation that we should not exceed for excellence, or not being able to think out of the box of how that would be beneficial to be multilingual. However, I have to say that I have to give pushback on, there is a book that I really enjoyed, and the mother in the book said to her daughter about actors, she said, no good can ever come of somebody pretending to be something that they are not. So I thought that was probably the most profound thing in that book to me. And the book was based on a true story about a young girl who had such a desire for luxury that she fell at a very young age, at the age of 13, into prostitution, was actually ultimately hung. So it was a very sad story about this little girl, but that was what her mother said to her before she spiraled into her downfall. Now, although I feel what you're saying, I feel like we have mastered the art of being jovial, and there is a saying, a fool's heart is in the house of mirth, right? And I feel like we've been in the house of mirth a long time, and it's time for us to get out of that space. I don't think we have the luxury of I don't think we have the luxury of relaxation. But so I guess that's where I would push back. I mean, I feel like, maybe at the center of this onion, we could have a party. But right now, all we do is party. So we need to move away from that. Something else.
I understand where you're coming from, Miss Irene, but I understand where both of y'all coming from. Actually, I understand where Mr. coming from. I understand where you coming from. I understand. So Mr. said, well, we need to be more inclusive. But like I said, I did take up, when I was in school, I did take up auto mechanic. I think it is good. You do learn how to work with your hands. But I do understand where Irene coming from. Irene said it seems like they want to keep us in a corner where they, like when she said she wanted her kid to learn another language, they said, oh no, I just take up shop class. No, that ain't what we want. We want to learn another language. Why I got to fit the profile or the protocols that you want to fit. Kind of like they used to tell black people that all you could be is a janitor back in the day. So I understand where she's coming from, but at the same time, I understand what she's saying now. Right now, it's like black people have been too much into entertainment. I have that feeling as well. I don't think nothing wrong with it, but I think we have gotten to the point where we too indulged in it, where we so entertained that we forget about other important things in life, And I think that we were to watch a football game then understand black history, or watch a football game or a basketball game, or play video games and actually educate ourselves by educate ourselves how we can make our lives better. Something we can actually do. Say, hey, how can I make my life better? How can I own my own business? And I think we just rather stay in comfort in entertainment that our life just passes by. And I understand where she's coming from. She's saying she don't believe that right now we have the luxury to sit and keep on partying and having a lot of fun while we getting left behind in things that could change our life financially in educating our kids. And I think that's what she's saying. Now it's time out. We had enough partying. Let's get to what we need to get to before we celebrate again. I think what she's trying to say. And I understand what she's saying. I respect Miss Irene for that, but I also understand you, Mr. You trying to balance it out. You trying to say that we could be on this side and help our babies. But I understand what you're saying, but the question is the people who's in the public schools and they decide to stay in the public schools, or their parents want them to stay in the public schools. What can we do to help them? Why they decide to stay in the public schools, getting indoctrinated with things? Because sometimes when you getting indoctrinated with certain things, and you on this side and they on that side, sometimes they ain't not gonna be able to relate to where you're going. It's because once you get programmed, that program hard. Like I'm 43, I turned 43, and I know when you get programmed for a certain age,
doesn't crack. I would not have picked 43.
Yeah, I'm 43. I'm serious. I'm 43.
No, I believe you.
Okay. I can't believe I ain't gonna ask you how old you are. You like in your 20s, and we're gonna leave it like that. I'm not being funny.
Let's leave
Not,
it there. No.
let's leave it there, girl. Cause I couldn't even guess. Cause I know that's the women's name 40 and 50 look better than some of these girls in their 20s. And I hate to say it, it's true. I don't know what they're eating now, but like I said, so I do understand, and I love this conversation because we do have multiple. Because it's kind of like I'm understanding what you're saying. Like we're just gonna pull all the way out because you can't be lukewarm or halfway in the middle and get to what we need to get to. What you say, that's why she said we just go ahead and just leave. I understand why Ramsey they need to go ahead and abandon and jump ship and move on. You said no, we should stay back for the babies and help them. But I want to know, and that's the question, Mister. And I understand where she's coming from. What can we do to help those people who decide to stay? It's like trying to help somebody who want to be homeless, or people don't want to learn things. You can't really do nothing for people who decide to stay where they at. You know what I'm saying?
He's not going to let that slide. He's not about to let it
But you understand what I'm saying, Miss Irene?
I understand what you're saying. He understands.
You can I understand he had love it. I can love and have sympathy for him, but that's all I can have for him. Like there's some people you can help. There's some people you can give money to, and sometimes if they've been some condition, there's nothing you really can do. Like there's some people who's homeless, they're giving up on life so bad, no matter what you do for them, it's hard to get them to move out unless they really get tired. But some people say, we know where I'm here. I want you to feel sorry for them, and I can't do no better. And when you can get conditioned, even in school, even with conditions are where you have to fight to get the condition after 18 years. And it's not easy. When I first had to start waking up, the sad thing about it is realize you've been lied to. That's the hardest thing. It's just like religion. A lot of people are brainwashed with white Jesus and Santa Claus. If you try to say, hey, white Jesus don't exist, Jesus wasn't white, they'll try to make an excuse. Well, it don't matter what color he is. There's nothing you can do for it. They refuse to let go of that truth and just move on. They say, well, we got it don't really matter. What does matter. How can I have a relationship with somebody? I'm just saying, how can I have a relationship with somebody? And I think religion is holding people back too, and not black people. How can you have a relationship with somebody if you don't know who and what they look like? You can't. I can't have a relationship with somebody if you're like you. I can't have a relationship with Irene. You're a black woman. If I have a relationship with Irene, a white woman, y'all not the same people. You know what I'm saying? I can't just say it don't matter which Irene I have a relationship with. I'm just saying when people are programmed a certain way, you can love them, you have sympathy for them, but some people you will not be able to help. Now, I'm not saying I can't help them in people in the public school, but it's their ideal, it's their parents' ideal. So what are you gonna do for those kids who decide to stay indoctrinated in public schools? I just want to know. They go stay there or they'll come this way.
Well, okay. So before Mr. tells us how he's not about to let anything that was said slide, I just want to ask Mr. that you address Tiffany Jackson's comment that's on the screen after you finish putting us in our place. And I also, before you put us in our place, I would just like that, Black people were perfectly fine, like to the everybody is not going to move out of those institutions thing. Mm-hmm. When we didn't have the option to be in their institutions, we managed to not be there. Now that we can have the option, we can't manage to not be there. And I think that is problematic.
So I guess I'll start off saying that, I'm anti Brown v. Board. So let's just go to the history. So I wasn't for all that integration and, desegregating the schools because of what Irene just alluded to, because that didn't do us that didn't do us well at all. When we were in our segregated schools, we just wanted, the equal resources, because when we were taught in those segregated schools, hence some HBCUs are still like this, and I attended one, those Black scholars make sure you got it. That was Black excellence. And so I think I want to start off saying that. And you have some of those because of Brown v. Board. And, with that being said, we lost a lot of Black scholars, because they fired a lot of Black teachers during that transition, because again, they thought that we couldn't teach their kids, right? But our kids were exceptional and always have been. So to kind of answer your question is that it's going to be a deprogramming. It's going to be a lot of unlearning. And a lot of times it's easier to do it with younger people than it is to do with older people. And, I'll make an analogy. You know, Sometimes we don't really understand completely what somebody is saying until we actually go through it ourselves. So somebody could actually be saying, man, so and so or such and such, whatever it was, and you're like listening to them like, yeah, okay, whatever. But then when you go through it, you're going to mimic what they've been saying, and they're going to be like, well, yeah, I said that. But you didn't realize it till you actually went through it yourself. And so the reason why I say that is because I think a lot of parents, and I'm saying parents and not the babies, parents are going to have to go through some of the things that other Black folks who are now homeschooling or put them in charter schools or, whatever the case may be, they may have to be part of that and see, like, oh, I see what it is, and I'm taking them out. But I'm saying there still needs to be some type of connectivity because we're not going to get everyone out. The truth of the matter is a lot of us use this as daycare. You know what I mean? And that's the truth of the matter. A lot of us use elementary school or preschool, whatever the case may be, as daycare. And so they don't mind. I mean, it's a trade-off. So although my baby may be indoctrinated with all this, foolishness, but it saves me money, right? Because I don't have to pay for childcare. So therefore, I'm able to go to work and everything and get them, later, and they're supposed to be getting this education and everything. So it's a win-win. But there's no balance in that. So you don't have active parents who are saying, no, that's incorrect. My child should be learning this. And there's no pushback. And so we often think that everything that, the teachers are giving our babies is accurate. I mean, back when my son was in elementary school, some teacher told him that, what's his name? Clarence, what's the Supreme Court?
Thomas?
Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas was the first African American to be on the Supreme Court. I was like, pump the brakes, Rashawn. That's inaccurate. I mean, so oftentimes we have to look over, and we should do this anyway, right? Look over and seeing what information our kids are getting and challenge that. And again, I know a lot of people saying, well, we shouldn't be doing that. They should be able to give us accurate information. But when have they ever given us accurate information about our folks and our history? That's never been the case. I mean, they have published books saying that, enslaved Africans were like, what do they say, on vacations or just workers or some euphemism that they use to really try to weaken the atrocity of enslavement. I mean, these are in published books. And so we have to push back. But again, I'm just saying that there's not going to be a wholesale group of Black folks who are just going to have a mass exodus. I wish that were the case. I actually wish, as an educator myself, I wish that were the case. Because when you take bodies away, you take ADA away, average daily attendance, you take dollars away. So they don't really care about the babies themselves, but they care about the dollars that are associated with the babies. And so that's the reason why, like in California, they'll talk about, these hate saving schools and all this other stuff for, the Latinx students and everything, all these sanctuary places. They don't care about those Latinx students. They care that they're still coming there and they're able to get money off of them. And guess what? So the Latinx population started to leverage that and say, okay, well, if you're going to pimp us, we're going to be some good hoes. We're going to get some out of it. And what Black folks do, they don't get anything out of it. So you see bilingual education in there. You start to see more Latinx administrators, educators, all throughout, because they have a critical mass. But with Black folks, we just sit back there and say, okay, well, we believe in this kumbaya and everything is going to be all right someday soon. And we just wait for, the benevolence of white people, which is never going to happen. And so that's why I say you have to have some people that are radical and unapologetic in the inside who are going to advocate for those babies and hopefully can get them out But if they are not going to be willing to leave, at least they can advocate for them there. And so, again, it's kind of like the similar conversation that Irene and I had. She was conveying earlier about, you know, just the mass exodus of Black folks in states where there's so few, you know. And so I think it's the same analogy. I think if we just, you know, up and left everybody there and say they're on their own, then I think it would be tough. Now, I will say this in closing. You know, if you're trying to do so much and, you know, people are just not, you know, calling a spade, and they're just allowing themselves to be abused, you know, habitual and everything, then yeah, it's time to pack up and say, okay, there's nothing else I could do here. You know, that's a different situation. But I think when, you know, babies are coming in and they don't really know the system, and, you know, they're viewing it altruistically, like everything is going to be fine. And when they start learning the real and they start pushing back and they start advocating for themselves, and we need other people there to advocate for them. And if they decide this is not working for me, I need to be in a better institution or homeschool or something like that, parents and other advocates need to listen to them. Because, I mean, in the current state where I am, they're getting literally accosted. I mean, these teachers are letting the N word be utilized with frequency. I mean, like assaulting them walking down the hallway. I mean,
that made me think of that one white teacher who was like, I put the A on it. I was like, nigga. And I was like,
yeah. I mean,
like, why is he on national TV doing this?
Yeah, because they really do that. That's the thing. And, you know, my thing is, I think all of our frustration here on this panel is that there's some need to grows that sit back and allow these things to happen, and they don't do anything about it because they just want to keep their money. They want to keep their pension. They want to keep, you know, their status of being an administrator or whatever the case may be, instead of doing right by the babies. And this is where I push back on Black folks in the community. You have to know and advocate for those brothers and sisters who are in the trenches, right? And you need to support them because they're putting their livelihood on the line to do what's right by our babies. And oftentimes they get no support. And they need the support from the outside community to put pressure on the administration, school board, and everything to not, you know, be vindictive towards those Black folks when they're helping our babies.
I need to just address a couple of things. One, Tiffany Jackson, I love every comment that you make. And I want to say that I agree. We were so poorly educated that a lot of us feel unequipped, right? We feel unequipped to assist children in their educational plan. But that's why we have institutes like ZIEX, and that's why we have, you know, institutes like the NOI who come together to assist parents with that. Homeschooling is not as difficult as people think it is. And then also, just if we're just talking an educational plan, like broad spectrum, that's where we need community support and things like that. I think that is extremely important. I also want to just say, to go back to one of my earlier points, whilst I hear everything that you're saying, Mister, and I agree to some extent, the problem is that we then have to undo all of that conditioning that these children receive. We have to try to heal all of that trauma that they go through in these institutions. And then we end up in the same place where we're trying to reteach fully grown adults things that could have been avoided if they had just never been in those predicaments. And then, Lord, I don't even know if you're Black. Like, I'm not saying you're not Black. I'm just saying I don't know that you're Black. But you said it's our own fault. Did you see that video where the Black woman teacher was making children rap and dance a song about math in the classroom? And all the Black people in the comments thought she was so great. So first and foremost, at ZIEX, there is actually a hip hop class that they give the littlest ones because hip hop is an aspect of Black American culture. And they teach the kids rhyming and how to embrace the use of different terms of speech with hip hop and with rap. So I think that makes sense. Obviously, we have lots of songs. There's a whole channel here on YouTube called Learn with Teaching, which is a white guy rapping educational songs. So I don't know that you're Black. I know that you're a troll and you're an entertaining troll. And I've been enjoying your comments, but I've been watching your comments and I'm side-eyeing your comments. I feel like you're pretending to be Black. I don't know that you are Black. You're still welcome to comment though, because your comments are fascinating. I'm just calling it out.
But here's the thing about that comment. So had a white person done something like that, stolen something that a lot of Black educators have done and do, it would have been the best thing to slice bread. Oh, this is phenomenal. Oh, this is wonderful. So that's the problem I have with that. I mean, they steal things and then they repackage and everything, and now all of a sudden they're going out and doing talks, doing books about things that Black folks have been doing for centuries. I think Dark Prophet was trying to say something.
Yeah, but I think his mic is not working. It's not working, right?
Well, I'm trying to wait. Can you guys?
So we can hear you.
We hear you fine. We hear you.
Well, I'll listen a little bit more. Well, it works a little bit, but I kind of have to shout low key, and I was trying not to do that, so I just went in the bathroom.
Oh, okay. Well, it doesn't sound like you're shouting at us.
It don't sound like you're hollering. Yeah, we hear you fine.
You'll be like a preacher. Just go after every few words, and you'll be right on point.
Oh, Lord, she funny.
Stop it.
She got a sense of humor. But but Mister, I listened to everything you said, and to me, it sounds like it's the only good reason what Irene said to pull him out, because you just said it. I mean, I know you tried to defend what you said, but all the stuff you said makes like a good reason on more Irene's point of perspective than yours. Because I was just listening, because the thing is, you have to fight against the parents. About that. I mean, you get involved. How you'll be involved? You have to go through the parents first and the school to get that kid out and to help them. Because, like I said, if you talking about the little ones, you got to deal with the parents. You just can't get the little ones out, just snatch them out. Because the parents think that's best for their kids. Because they probably don't know nothing. You have a hard time trying to help the kid. If you got to go to fight the parent and the school. So I understand where you're coming from, but how you gonna get to the kid while getting through the parents? You gonna have to get to the parents first. No, it's a
multi-tiered approach.
Huh?
No, you're right. It's a multi-tiered approach. I mean, you have to talk to the parents, you have to talk to
and believe it or not, our black parents,
and it's
the white parents, some of the black parents here today, they're not all that. They about they worse than the kids. When it comes. No offense when it comes to right and wrong, if you discipline a kid, now the parent try to fight you. So the parents' mindset ain't like it used to be.
Yeah.
When it comes to their kids, they'll probably fight you, and it's sad because the parents are ignorant too. You wonder why the kids are, but I'm telling the truth, Mister. That some of the parents is like, y'all don't even do y'all kids right or know anything, and it's like, okay. I don't know. I think the kid a little bit more have more sense than the parents. Don't be honest about it, but
the thing about it is he's not going to let you get away with that.
Huh?
He never says anything questionable about Black people. He never does it. He loves our people too much.
I love everybody too, but
clean up everything you said. I'm interested to hear what you have to say to that too, Mister, because he always has a way of turning it around so that we can look at it from a different perspective. So
love is one thing. Loving somebody, I love a lot of people, but just because you love somebody and you compassionate don't mean they go change. And you can't really help everybody. That's the people I love and wish the best for too. That's all you can do. It's up to them to change. Sometimes you can work yourself out, hoping and looking for somebody to do what's right when they are not going to do what's right. I'm not saying it's not hope that none of them will leave the school, but you can't make them all. And I don't think you should stay back for people who's not going to move forward.
Ooh, that was a good little quote right there.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the thing. It's very difficult. because a lot of our brothers and sisters do have the mindset that, you know, white folks' ice is always cooler, right?
Mhm.
And so that, you know, the education that's being provided, you know, by them for our babies is obviously going to be better because of the propaganda that's been, you know, put out historically. But again, so what we have to do is we have to be preventive and proactive. And what I mean by that, we can't wait and sit back and say, listen, when this happens, then you're going to, I mean, being reactionary is a lot more work than being preventive. And so you just have to give examples. You have to have surrogates on the outside and inside and everything. And again, this doesn't mean that everybody's going to leave. You know, not everyone's going to leave. But what I'm simply saying is that those that are going to leave are going to go because of, you know, influence by the parents and influenced by other community members or peers. They're going to go, right? And
Right.
some are going to stay because some of us just want to be around white folks, and so we have to understand that that's just going to be the reality. But what I'm saying is those folks that want to stay there, we still have to we have an obligation, I believe,
I don't.
to make sure
I don't.
they're okay.
I don't. Cause it's like it's like trying to say if they want to stay with the white folk, it's like trying to rescue somebody who don't want to be saved. Some people ain't. I mean, I understand where you come from, Mister. You hoping they change and come forward, but I understand. I mean, as much as I love our black people, you gotta realize that some black people, no matter what, they will not leave the plantation, and you have to accept that they made that choice. I'm not saying they never change their mind, but until they change their mind, hey, you know where to find me, like that.
Mr. would say that the children are innocent in that, though.
Well, they are.
They, by the time they are innocent.
You got to turn some of the plantations into fields. And so if you can't change the people around you, you change the people around you. And so we do have some educators, whether they're administrators. I mean, so there's some strategies around, even within the system, we still could benefit our babies well, not because of the system, but in spite of it. We still could do, I mean, there's plenty of examples of that happening currently. So I'm just, like I said earlier, I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I'm not in agreement with
Right.
the system is flawed and it does our babies a disservice more than anyone else. But I'm saying there are examples, and I think we can learn from them based upon success that has been able to be fostered within those spaces. But again, it's going to be nuanced. So we just can't cookie cut, you know, say take this success model and put it over here. No, we have to nuance it and make it specific for that particular.
We're not saying that. I'm trying to ask. I'm trying to figure out what a specific plan of staying back. What's the purpose of staying back if we can't really do anything? Like we are already trying to get.
I just want to ask, because I agree with both of you to a degree, but when we talk about programs that can work to the benefit of the children in the system, I agree that those exist. Mr. runs programs like that. Like that's what he does. But I can never get away from those programs are there to undo the damage that was done by that system, right? So it's like I beat you up to a bloody pulp, and then I provide the doctor and the hospital and the nursing and the medicine to fix that. So I feel like it can be a revolving door. Like for those that are there, yes, we need those programs, but then there has to be a cutoff point. It cannot perpetually just be that our children are being damaged in the system, and then we have people there and programs there to fix that damage
that they started.
Those kids should be filtering out, right? So the message to those kids by the Black people in those spaces should be, we don't want our next generation in this space. Be sure that your child is never in this space. And then that next generation, when they have families, those children will be Black educated. The goal should be, if we were sticking around, that we would have, what do we say, a 20-year plan, right? So we get everybody from preschool into early college. We have a 20-year plan, and then the execution of that, and I know that it's not possible to execute this, but in a perfect world, right, would be that after that point, we move out of that system. We passed on that message, we need to move our babies out of this system, or a 40-year plan if you want to follow those kindergartners through early college. But then after that, we've got the revolving door has to stop, right? We can't perpetually just, be in, what are those doors called?
Revolving doors.
Revolving doors.
Circle. I can't.
Revolving doors. Revolving doors.
You can't be in a revolving door of, we're going to stick it out here because there's a benefit, when those benefits are only in place because of the damages that the system causes. So
it's kind of like, it's kind of like putting drugs in the community. It's kind of like putting poison in your food, then send you to the doctor and get you hooked on drugs.
Well,
you can't get out. Honestly, she's saying, she said we need to prevent. She said, why go through all that when we can just go ahead and prevent all that nonsense of trying to redo them after these 18 years or 20 years. I understand what she said. She said, why go allow that? Why not just not allow that to happen at all, instead of just waiting to all that damage is done and then get people to, after they did the damage, try to give you help after they're damage, which is stupid. Kind of like, I should say, like, kind of like beating you up, then say, oh yeah, here's your Band-Aid. And it is kind of insanity to turn that cycle.
Well, I mean, so I liken it to this. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with that. I think we need a combination. But to me, it's analogous to somebody who's taking drugs, right? They've been addicted to drugs. We don't say, okay, well, they're on drugs, so we're not going to try to rehabilitate them. I mean, I think that would be harsh, right? Maybe in some degree, some people may feel that way. But again, there's a whole lot of rehabilitative things we could do to help those individuals. But I think this is the case. I don't think it should be programmatic. I think it should be systematic and sustainable. It should be a thing where it does lead to some going outside of the purview of the current educational structure that's in place that's doing damage for our babies. But again, I keep arguing the point that, again, there's not going to be the mass, like even I said, in a perfect world that would happen. But we know we live in a very imperfect world, and that's not going to happen. So we need to have not programs, but again, what I call it is counter systems within the system that's going to allow our babies to have some type of protection and advocacy. Because again, we have to think about ourselves, the people who came before us, who were pioneers, who allowed us to be in a position that we are in today. If it wasn't for them, if they said, oh, well, forget them, we're going to pack them, only deal with these people, I think we will really be in a bad situation today. So again, I'm not saying I disagree with it, you all. I just think we have to have a combination of approaches where, yes, we do have our systems where our babies don't even get indoctrinated with that at all. And we do have systems that, if they're there, we have surrogates, we have advocates, we have people there that are going to help them, and get them on the right trajectory while they're there. Because again, they need support. They need support while they're there.
I want to address what DeFreak said. He said, if you're removing yourself from the system, aren't you part of the system though? How is leaving going to help? This is identity politics and subversion. So I want to address that, and I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say about that as well. So this is what I would say. Are we part of the system? Like, if we're talking about, are we part of something bigger? Yes, this would be one part in a bigger plan. But I think when we talk about identity politics and things like that, I think that is as if saying that people cannot engage in measures that are protective for their children. So with respect to the fact that DeFreak has been following my channel for a year, I'm going to address this because normally I wouldn't. And I know Mr. probably won't address it unless I really ask him to. So if we're all part of a bigger system, but we remove children from dangerous situations and unhealthy situations all the time. CPS takes children out of dangerous homes. The families are part of a bigger system, right? The system of America, the community that they're in, the city that they're in, the state that they're in, that's part of this country. So there is a network, right? But that doesn't stop CPS from removing the child from the dangerous situation. If you're in an abusive relationship, you'll leave the relationship, right? So people don't stay in situations, and nobody calls it identity politics, right? So if we have situations where children's hair are being cut, where they're being expelled simply for wearing their hair natural, or being told that they look unkempt because they're just walking around the way God made them. If we have a system where children are being taught about racial dynamics from a place that is not racially sensitive, if we have a system where we know that there's a school to prison pipeline that is traceable and measurable, if we have a system where we have degrees of measuring issues, that's not identity politics. There are people of many groups who pull their children out of school. In San Francisco, Chinese schools are hugely popular. It's Chinese people pulling their kids out of other schools, are never putting their kids in those schools and putting them in a Chinese education facility where they learn to speak Chinese. They learn about their people's culture and they go to school with other Chinese people. And we never call that identity politics. I went to a private school. It was a Catholic school. Nobody calls Catholics having their own school identity politics. I went to a Lutheran college. Nobody ever said to me, man, that's some Christian identity politics. You're in a Lutheran school. So there are lots of specialized schools. And then whites have schools that blacks are not even allowed to. So there are Jewish schools. So it's only called identity politics when black people do it. When black people do it, it's identity politics. Any other time, we just accept that's a version of a private school or a different type of education. We're not passing judgment. And so I think I would encourage you to look at why it is there are all these specialized schools. There are language immersion schools, Chinese schools, Catholic schools, Jewish schools, right? There are all these schools. So why is it that you feel this is identity politics?
They always got some type of special name when something happened to black people, and like when white people on drugs, they say they got a medical issue. When we enjoy, they call us crackheads and stuff. That's kind of strange how they always try to put special names on like kids. Like when they got kids do something about, oh, they thugs. When white kids do something about it, oh, they just reacting out of bad family issues. They all got something to say about, they try to trick people with those terms and new words to try to make things sound different than what it is and what it's not. And I'm glad you point that out, Mr. Irene. I never heard of such term anyway. And like I said, that's crazy, man. I never heard of that. I know not identity politics. What kind of name is that? That don't even sound right. Like, and another thing about systems, all you part of system. Now, systems, that's kind of strange because there's different types of systems. And ain't nothing wrong with systems. You got good systems, you got bad systems. You got a body system, you got all kinds of systems. You got a PlayStation system. Just, when you say system, you got, don't say, oh, are you part of the system? Yeah, you're a part of a system, but it's not just one system. There's more than one system. You got good system, bad system. The system we talking about is the corrupted system that's not working for black people. That's what system we talking about. And so when you start saying system, you be a little bit more specific. It's not that just only one system in life. There's all kinds of systems. And some benefit and some don't. She's talking about the system that's not benefiting us. So yeah, you're a part of a system, but it won't be that system. All right, and let's make that clear. Don't get tripped over terms like that. Y'all say some people always try to got terms to trip people up. Like people stupid. Like there's only one system. There's more than one system. The system we're talking about is not benefit for black people. Doesn't make it sense. We can start our own system.
Yeah, I don't think Mr. is probably he doesn't address things like Mr.
Not Mr., but I mean to the freak. Not.
No, I know. I'm saying Mr. is not probably going to address him because
why not? Are he gonna leave it alone?
He doesn't address stuff like that.
Okay. I don't even understand the question. First of all,
I didn't either. That's why I never heard them terms before, and I know anything about systems.
Divisive identity politics.
Yeah, I never heard it before.
We're talking.
He said, "What is identity politics?"
The conversation about moving children out of the system or out of those schools into black schools. He's saying it's identity politics and it's divisive.
Yeah, I'm not going to even dignify that with a response.
I'm not. I didn't understand the term.
Mr. wasn't going to answer.
I couldn't answer it. I know it's playing on. It's not going to play on words to me.
Yeah, but
that's what I was saying.
That's not identity politics.
So, I don't even think the such thing is a really identity politics. It's something that's made up like Miss Irene said, just because they want to say something about black people that separates and turn. I think people like like thugs and stuff. I think it's one of them things that is, but don't really ain't no such thing. But so when people get into those type of terminologies that it's not realistic. People start thinking, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. So that's why I said I don't know where it is. I don't even think it's even relevant.
Well, I don't think it's relevant. It didn't fit. I mean, identity politics doesn't. Yeah,
fit anything.
It
we don't know what we're talking about.
When we're talking about here, it's like no.
Exactly.
So, I think Irene already addressed it, so we can move on to.
Yeah, we can move on to that one.
Yeah, because I mean, unless he's going to clarify that, he said something at the end of subversion or something like that. Do you have it, Irene? Can you read it?
Yeah, let me go back and see if I can find it.
He said just a straight divisiveness and nothing else. Well, ain't nothing, sometimes good to divide. Ain't nothing wrong with having division. Ain't nothing wrong with subtracting, adding, and dividing sometimes. And I don't know why people say it's all about division. Sometimes we need to be divided. We need to be separated.
What did he say? Do you have it?
I'm looking. He said, if you're removing yourself from the system, aren't you part of the system though? How is leaving going to help? This is identity politics and subversion. And then he went on to say that it was just straight divisive.
I don't understand how you move yourself system. If you're part of you move yourself from the system. That don't make no sense.
So I would say, so what is divisive? And
that's what I want to know.
And then you have to say, if you're looking at the public school system in general, it's more segregated than it was probably even pre-Brown, right?
But public school system the public school system itself is divisive.
Absolutely.
It may, according, when it comes against people of color, because it's taking our history out and it's not teaching us anything. It has a device to put people in one direction, and it don't benefit us, and that's very divisive itself. So I don't know. I'm gonna leave that alone.
Yeah, because like you said, if you look at the disproportionality of especially African American males being placed in special ed, the disproportionality as far as suspension, expulsion. I mean, even starting in preschool, right? So to say that, I mean, are you gonna say that's identity politics? I mean, so I can't, like I said, I can't dignify that because I really don't fully understand the question. But I think Irene did the best job of addressing it, and I just would move on because it really just even merit this much conversation, in my opinion.
This is along the same vein as people saying like Black people play victim. Like this is along that same mode of thinking. It's like nobody, says Jews are playing victim, when they bring up the Holocaust. No, it's just like, okay, so it's not victim when it's anybody else. Nobody, says that the Japanese are playing victim when they bring up internment camps. Nobody's playing victim until Black people do it. Never mind that in the Congo, we saw more people killed just in the Congo alone than Jews were killed in the Holocaust. Black people can never just talk about it being playing victim.
With King Leopold and how they ravished the Congo and how they
over 10 million Black
cannibalism and all these other things. And if you look up a brother by the name of Oda Binga and how they took him from the Congo, right, and put him into a zoo, right, that human zoos, New York Zoo, and on Mondays I believe they were washing clothes, and he was in the cage with monkeys, and he was naked and everything, and he was a spectacle. Right. I mean, so again, I guess that's divisive too. But anyway, let's further our conversation unless there's some more. But I think somebody else put something up. We didn't get a chance, or you didn't read. There was a comment that was made by somebody. It flashed up, but then it went away.
Oh, okay. So let's see. Well, Tiffany Jackson, she just keeps making like really interesting comments. The last one that she made, and that's not the one that flashed on the screen, but I mean, this one is worth looking at too. She said, sadly, Blacks who long to be near white people are typically staunch assimilationists who leave their children to be unprotected targets of covert racism in schools.
Wow.
Yeah, everything that comes out of her mouth is worth a conversation.
I mean, she a freedom. I like the way she talk. She part.
Yeah, I
a
mean,
freedom fighter.
here's the thing with that. Those assimilationists, and they, want to sip from the white cup folks and everything. Again,
I like
they
that.
don't overstand until they've been burned. That's the unfortunate part. Until they have been burned, their kids, the babies have gone through something, and then they'll realize, like, oh my goodness, I see what those radical Negroes were talking about. These white folks really don't love us. And then, like you said, and see, this is what I understand where y'all coming from. And oftentimes, their babies have been indoctrinated so much. I'm not going to say it's too late, but it's a lot more work that has to be done.
Oh, James Rogers. And Tiffany, I wish Tiffany could come on her, man. I wish she can just click on and join the company. Because she said some good stuff. I'd like to hear what she had to say.
What was
I
the
don't
other
know
one
if
that
it'll come up or not. But
What was
I
the
don't
other
know,
one that
Tiffany. Can
flashed?
you join in, Tiffany?
What was the other one that flashed that was up there for?
I know James Rogers.
let me go back and see.
Oh Lord. Now James, Tiffany and the freak got a conversation going on. I was stay out of that one. About division and stuff. She said every time a black person tries to protect themselves, there's always it's always called division. I see what you're coming from. There's always a problem.
Yeah, it is. When you're viewed less than human, and you
Yeah,
try to
it
advocate
is.
for yourself.
Two-thirds of
There's
a
a
man.
problem.
Yeah.
I think I read the other one before that. It was, she said, the challenges. So many parents and grandparents in our community were very poorly. Yeah, I read that one about them being poorly educated, and I don't think there was one before that. I think that was.
Yeah, so I don't think I addressed that. So we do have some parents and grandparents who I would say they may not be schooled, because there's a distinction between school and educated. So you could be very educated and not have attended formal schooling, right? Because you could be self-taught. And a lot of our people are, so they may not speak with the Queen's English, right? But that doesn't mean that they're uneducated. So I think we need to make that distinction. And so maybe they didn't have the schooling per se, but doesn't mean they don't have the intellectual acumen because guess what? They've navigated this system. They're here. You know what I mean? They're providing roofs and everything. So, they must have, an amount of education, whether that's, formalized schooling when we talk about education or not. And so I think we just need to use the words carefully, because we oftentimes are not attending to deface or defame or degrade our people, but sometimes with the language we use, we may unintentionally do that. And so, although I think I understand what she means by like the schooling, they may not be up to snuff on those type of things, which may be very true. And as far as counseling and maybe how to advocate for their babies or grandbabies, like we probably would know how. But that's when we have advocates like all of us on this panel and even her to help them. And that's why I said it has to be, we have to have surrogates. We have to have advocates for those people who may be less informed as far as the schooling process, and kind of like bring them up to speed on that. And I think we need to do that in a variety of ways, because again, oftentimes they're just trusting, our oppressors. And so again, oftentimes we need to, for lack of a better term, school them, and on the schooling process. But that doesn't mean that they don't have any education, right? Because again, they've been able to navigate this life. You have to have something to get through this, or to keep a roof over your head, to feed people and stuff like that. It's not to say that all of our folks are just on assistance and Section 8 and just ghetto and everything like that. No, that's not the case.
I mean, the reality is that a great deal of our people, let's keep it real, the majority of the Black population does live at or near or underneath the poverty line. So I think that is just a very real thing. But I do agree that that does not have anything to do with intellect. And there are varying ways to be intelligent, and there are different types of intelligence that are valuable. I do think that I understand what she was saying about just making those educational choices. A lot of things that we do, to steal one of Mr. words, we do it with automaticity. So we don't give a lot of thought into it. And so diverging from like the path of the status quo can be very difficult.
Absolutely.
People can be ill-equipped.
Absolutely.
To do that, and also resistant, you know.
Absolutely. No, I don't disagree anything with that. That's why I said we have to have a multiplicity of ways of like consulting and advocating and talking to those individuals in a way that's going to help them. Since there will be little or no resistance by parents if you provide them.
Yeah, ADOS Black was saying that earlier. I wish that was the thing is kind of what Mr. was saying earlier, thinking that white ice is cooler. So even if you provide them with an alternative that you deem as better, you know, what is better is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, it's very relative. Mm-hmm.
So I guess they would have to perceive it as better. And that can be very difficult. So for example, in California, private schools do not have to have accredited teachers at the private schools. However, if you have a brick and mortar private institution and the teachers there are not accredited, people will pay money to send their child there, fill that place with Black faces. Nobody's going to want to bring their kid there. Nobody's going to feel that that's reputable. They're probably going to be like, oh, are these people accredited? Like that. So then it takes away from, you know, the level to which people are willing to accept something as reputable. So I think that in theory, I want you to be right? Because then I could say, we have better alternatives. Let me offer these better alternatives. But if they don't view it as a better alternative, then that can be the problem.
But I think there's an exception. I think there's an exception. And I think the exception is if white folks will say, hey, this is the best school since sliced bread, and they're advocating for it, and they're saying it's good, because of course they do this because of interest convergence. They're getting something out of it. So if they're advocating for this particular school and saying it's good for Black kids to come, i.e. like a lot of the charter schools, right? They open up in the hoods and everything, and they target Black and brown, primarily Black, kids in the hood, and they say, listen, your traditional public school is trash. Come to ours because it's so much better. And guess what? A lot of people, they bite hook, line, and sinker because they're saying, oh, well, these white folks saying it, so it can't be wrong. But again, it's really no distinction between that charter school and that traditional public school. I mean, it may be smaller. There's some nuance and everything, maybe uniform, so on and so forth. And maybe their test scores are higher because of creaming. And what I mean by that, I'm not trying to be gross, is because they select the highest students and everything that will calm down, y'all. The highest, students, they cherry pick, right? They cherry pick the students who are, academically gifted. They cherry pick the students whose parents are going to contribute to that. Those things happen, and even though they say they don't, being a co-founder of a charter school, I know how these things operate, because we were trying to do it organically in a way that's right and true. But we see a lot of these other charter schools like, no, that's why their scores are so good. It's not because they're doing anything pedagogically magical. No, they're getting good students and everything. Because if you're really taking a student that is really behind some years, oftentimes it takes a couple years to get them up to par. Now, you could get them up if you're just trying to test prep. Now, if you're just teaching to a test, well, yes, because you're preparing them for everything, how the question is going to be. That's different. From teaching an actual content area and try to teach a mastery of a particular subject area. That's totally different. But oftentimes these schools that are really scoring high, they are just teaching to a test. And so therein lies the difference. And so that's why you may see a lot of these schools that are doing exceptionally well, and people just look at their scores.
And the
so
kids don't know anything.
Yeah, and that's the quick quantitative data, right? That's the numbers. But if you look at the qualitative data, if you look at the stories, you look at how their trajectory has come from here to there, that's a whole different story, right? And that's something people don't have the time to wait for. That's stories that they don't want to tell. And so that's when you're really and truly educating somebody, when you're taking them, from a place to mastery, or they're making jumps, incrementally, where they may have been reading at a second grade level, and now they're reading at a third grade level.
Yeah, no, teaching to the test is a pet peeve of mine, because I think an understanding is so very important. I'm going to pass out. Do you want to wrap it up, mister?
Go ahead. I just came in. Y'all got me all fired up now.
All right. Well,
it's getting late.
Yeah, but it's getting late.
I can't sing, but yeah, it's getting late.
But I want to thank Your Journey for coming on. I want to encourage you guys to go check out his channel. Like I said, he has a great archive of really interesting interviews. Each is different than the one before. There are definitely going to be a plethora of topics that you guys will have not considered. I really encourage you to watch, like I mentioned it before, it was the first one that I saw when I went to his channel, which is the young woman who had a tumor, and just a brain tumor, and just her journey and how she's overcome that and where she is now. And then he has, everything from that to just so many very unique, off the beaten path type topics where he does interviews on. So do go and support. It's very positive content. It's very mentally stimulating content. It's an opportunity to see a variety of people from the community and their different takes on a variety of subjects. So I encourage you to go over, check out his videos. If you enjoy them, make sure that you subscribe. It's just the way it is on the screen, Your Journey. You can put your, oh wait, you can't. You want to put your, can I mod you really quick?
Yeah, hold
on. So put your link in the chat. So, he's going to put his link in the chat. So please do go over to his channel and, try it out. Well, Dark Prophet, I don't have to advertise you, hun, because you always close with subscribe to the kid. So subscribe to the kid, Dark Prophet. Although I'm pretty sure everybody is subscribed by now. Subscribe to Dark Prophet as well. But yeah, so do check out both of their channels. And of course, thanks to Mr. for showing up, because I did ask him to come up, but I did not realize or did not know that he was going to choose to. So that was a happy surprise. And go and check out, like I said, over on African Diaspora News, my interview with Phil about the Ziax Institute, and also African Esquire had an amazing interview over there, and you guys must check out her interview. I truly, truly enjoyed that. And of course, we all know that Africa Diaspora News is pretty dope. So those are my interview and African Esquire's interviews. I think were a good dessert for this weekend. And so I encourage you guys to go check that out. And this chill session will go unlisted, so do make sure that you save, because you guys know I'm trying to keep my content streamlined, so the chill sessions are not up. I can keep them unlisted and put them on a playlist, but I know a lot of you guys have playlists, so make sure that you save it, because you can always watch it as long as you have the link. But I just am trying to keep the channel really streamlined for newer people. So I'll leave it up for a little bit for those who missed it, and then it'll go unlisted, so you can still watch it. You just won't see it like on the playlist, because I'm revamping the channel, and you guys know that I'm rebanding. I'm sorry for anybody who went over to Sally Hemings on Facebook and was not able to be added. I'm maxed out at 5,000 people already on Facebook, but at the beginning of March, the first week of March, it'll turn into a page, and then I will add everybody then. So I just apologize for those of you. It's not that I'm not accepting your friend requests. I just cannot. And then it will change back over to Irene Yvette, and hopefully we won't get banned this time. Please do support Ziax Institute. I know you guys hear me say this all the time. Feel free to, if you have a child, apply for enrollment over there. And I will see you back here again. Prep for this virus. I went on this rant earlier. Please, you guys, take this seriously. Take it seriously. Okay. All right. So I will talk to you guys later. And yeah, thank you for joining me, Word. It's always good to see you. I had my 2 trolls. They were on their best behavior today, and you guys actually contributed some very interesting things. I don't mind trolls that are contributors. So I don't mind happy, friendly trolls. So yeah, I was glad to have both of you guys here because you guys did contribute to the conversation. And I will talk to all of you guys later. Oh, did you say something? Yes.
Yeah, I did give you my information in the private chat. And I also want to most definitely thank you, Mr. If you got a YouTube channel with stuff, I will follow you, or Facebook. Just hit me up in the private. And I really thank you for allowing me to come on your platform as Irene Yvette, as very, very thankful. And I'm so thankful for your support, and all the people who listen to me talk and ramble. So I thank all of your viewers as well. And you can subscribe to my channel as well. And Miss Irene, whatever topic you want to talk about on my channel, I'm open.
Oh, I have to come up with the topic. Ooh.
Well, yeah. Whatever you feel like. I kind of flow with spirit. I flow like what you comfortable to talk about. So that might be something you know that I don't know that you may want to talk about and explore, and I can learn too. Because my channel, I learn too when people talk. It ain't not about me. I actually learn something. So if anything specific you want to talk about, I'll be happy to bring you on to talk about wherever you want to talk about.
Maybe I'll do something off the beaten path too, just to keep with the mood of your channel. I'll come with something people won't be expecting. So I'll let you guys know when I'll go over to his channel and do my interview over there, so that you guys can check that out. And yeah, so you want the link to the last live that we email me, Dark Prophet, will you please? Because I don't know. Email me, because I will have to look. I'll have to go look.
He got YouTube content also. Dark Prophet got YouTube content.
He doesn't have anything over there, but he's definitely like planning to put stuff over there. So he likes to make sure that he plugs the channel every single time. So you guys know, just click on their avatars, if nothing else. And yeah. So with that said, you guys, I will talk to you guys later.
All right, pleasure meeting you, brother. I'll be in contact. All right.
All right, Mr. Yeah, contact me, whatever. And if you got content, I would like to subscribe to your channel on Facebook. Let me know something.
No, that's all, Irene. I'm just a supporter of y'all.
Oh, okay. Well, then you can come and support, because when I go live, you can come on, because I do have Zoom now where I can actually go live on Facebook or YouTube.
Okay. That's what's up. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, you guys. Good night.
All right. Good night.
All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you. Good night.